Hello and welcome to our session on pitching. Before we move further, I think it's important to first start off with our definition of what exactly do we mean by pitching. Let's start with a simple example. Let's assume that there is an individual by the name of Mr. X, and Mr. X has something, let's call it Y, which we want, right? So this is us. That's Mr. X, this is us. Now, Mr. X may or may not be Mr. X may or may not be willing to give us Y, but what we want to do is use a set of tools, which in most cases is a series or a sequence of interactions, at the end of which Mr. X will willingly give us what we want, and ideally he will do this at our terms and conditions. Okay, so at our T's and C's. Now, as part of this interaction, and as part of this transaction, what is the transaction? The transaction in the end is simply, I will say something to you, I will do something for you. At the end of this conversation, this interaction, you will give me what I want at the terms and conditions that are acceptable to me. Right? So this is what we mean by pitching. Now, in this scenario, there are lots of possibilities and variations. Possibility A is that this is a business plan competition, and there is a prize, and I want Mr. X, who is a judge, to give me that prize. That's one. This could be a national or a regional ICT competition, and once again, Mr. X is a judge and I want to win the competition. That's second possibility. Third is Mr. X is an investor, and he can sign me a check for dollars, and that's what I want. Fourth is Mr. X is a customer, and once again he can place an order that I can use for dollars to deliver something that he wants, and once again the objective of the interaction is to get into the money. Scenario number E is, the individual is somebody who is not in a position to give me dollars, but can introduce me to people who have dollars, whether those people are customers or investors. Now, in this entire set of sequence or sequence of scenarios, the primary driver behind successful execution of this transaction, where this transaction is X has Y, I want Y, at my terms and conditions, I need to do something for X to give me Y. When this transaction is bound by a set of rules, and let's take a look at those simple rules. So rule number one is that people don't have time. They want to keep things simple. So rule number one is, let's keep things simple, right? Again, because they don't have time, they want things to be kept to the point. Rule number three, they're not interested in you or me, they're interested in them. Now, again, depending on who Mr. X is, whether he's an investor, whether he's a customer, whether he's somebody with influence who can introduce us to an investor or a customer, in some cases this them needs to be very, very carefully defined, and may not necessarily be the individual in question that you are talking to, right? So if I take these four simple rules, keep it simple, keep it to the point, not interested in you, not interested in me, interested in them, we've got a very simple scenario. Simple scenario is that, let's say I have a 3 to 5 minute interaction. Now, Mr. X is a human being, right? He's a normal individual, which means that he enjoys having a pleasant interaction. He enjoys being asked for his feedback and opinion. He enjoys when people do things that show that they respect his intelligence. which then brings you to the first rule of engagement, and that rule of engagement is that you have to, whatever you do, you have to A, keep it simple, keep it to the point, and most importantly, respect my intelligence by not doing things that sort of show that you take me for a fool or you take me for an idiot. Which then brings us to our first step. That first step is step number 1. In somewhere between 30 to 90 seconds, ask and answer 3 very basic questions. Who are you? Right? So, my name is Jawwad Farid and I run Alchemy Technologies. What do you want? Alternatively, before you do what you want, what do you do? So my name is Jawwad Farid and I run Alchemy Technologies. Alchemy Technologies is a practice that sells risk solutions to the banking industry. So my name is Jawwad Farid. Who are you? What do you do? I sell risk system to the banking industry. Right? And that hasn't taken so long. That's just taken maybe about 30 seconds or so. Certainly under 30 seconds or so. Now, what do I want? What do you want? Now, if you wanted to keep it very, very crude, I want to sell you my system. Or I want you to buy my system. Or I want you to introduce me to people who would buy my system. Or I want you to introduce me to people who I could sell my system, right? So intro to buyers or intro to people I could sell to. Now, question number 3 is the piece that really matters, and this piece is you can answer this piece in a variety of ways. So you can answer question number 3 in a variety of ways, but the most important way is what's in it for me, or why should I care? Right. So if I take it one step forward, who are you? My name is Jawwad Farid. My name is Jawwad Farid. And what do you do? What do you do? I sell risk systems to the banking industry. So that's 2. And now question number 3 is why should I care? Now, why should I care varies on who you talk to. So if you're talking to an investor, there's a slightly different pitch here. If you're talking to a customer, there's a slightly different pitch here. Talking to a customer, the why should I care piece has many answers. You should care because I can, if you're my customer, I can really simplify your life. Simplify your life. I can help you get home early. I can help you look good. I can help you not look bad. Okay. So all of these are things that I think I can help you do, which is the reason why I think if you're a customer, you should care. If you're an investor, you should care because this is a good deal, but this is where pitching gets a little convoluted. Yes, I know everybody's in it for making money, but you can't actually go out and say that you should care because I'm going to make you a lot of money. No, you actually have to show me. You can't just say I'm going to make you millions and millions of dollars. You actually have to show me how you're going to make me those millions and millions of dollars, and that, in essence, brings us back to why when we make and prepare for pitches, there's not much of a difference between preparing for an investor or preparing for a customer presentation, because ultimately what investors really care about is how well do you understand your customer, how well do you understand the driver that would push this customer to buy your product, and how well do you understand this interaction of influence between the customer and yourself that would allow him, that would force him, that would push him to come to you and buy your product, right? So one part of is understanding this whole customer piece. How well do you understand the customer? Another part is, which is possibly just as important, is that how big is this market? Or alternatively, how many such customers are actually out there, and what's the likelihood that you as in this gentleman here, your company, your product, would actually be able to reach out to all of them and convert them to cash? All right. So quick recap. We said, what is pitching? Pitching is this interaction between two people where I want to influence them to give me something that I want at my terms and conditions, and I want to do this using certain tools and techniques and products that I have at my disposal that would primarily allow me to influence, right? And then our step 2 was, we looked at some basic rules of interaction, or basic rules of thumbs that we're not supposed to violate. And the first rule was that keep it simple, second rule was keep it to the point, and third rule was it's not about you or me, it's about them. And number 4 was, this them thing is something that we have to understand. And then we basically out and said that, to keep compliant, to stay compliant with the 3 rules that we just specified, let's do a few things, which is, let's keep things pleasant and interesting, let's create opportunities to generate lots and lots of feedback, and let's respect their intelligence. And the first step that leads to application of these 3 rules is that let's do step 1, which is do a quick introduction within 30-90 seconds, where you go out and say, or tell me who you are and what do you do and what do you want and what's in it for me. And the example that we were trying to work with initially was my example, where I said that, who are you? My name is Jawwad Farid. What do you do? I sell risk systems to the banking industry, and why should I care? And this why should I care piece then varies, because I need to answer it slightly differently depending on whom I'm talking to. If I'm talking to an investor, or if I'm talking to a customer. If I'm talking to a customer, I'm simply saying, you should care because I could possibly simplify your life, I could make things easier, I could make you look good, I could help you look not bad. And if you're talking to an investor, it is a variation of exactly the same conversation that we've just had, because investors are primarily interested in your ability to understand a market, your ability to understand a customer, your ability to understand what really drives the purchasing decision, and your ability to actually justify the size of the market and explain how big this market, this opportunity is, so that even though while the end goal and the end objective is to make sure that they get the money back with some return on it, you can't actually go out and say that I'm going to make you a lot of money. You actually have to start off by showing them how this money would be made. Alright, so now so far what we've done is this is a very high level, very basic review of what a pitch, what are some ground rules of engagement for pitching something to an individual who may be a customer or an investor. So what does a good pitch looks like? What does a good pitch sounds like? A good pitch. So attributes of a good pitch. Now a good pitch has some very clean elements, right? So the first element is, there is a, I think for lack of a better word, if we go back to the music industry, to the movie industry, there is some kind of a backstory. Something is happening, right? So there is a story. Now generally, if you think in terms of stories are we find those stories interesting where there is a good guy and this good guy wants something, right? So again, let's talk about this. This is X, he wants X, and there is this big obstacle between him and X. Now this obstacle could be a wall, it could be a hurdle, it could be any combination of things that stand between him and item X. So a good story basically starts off by giving us a very short and brief preview of this background. And then within this background, a good story also says that, this guy has a plan. He has a plan for figuring out how to scale this obstacle and get to X. And what we really want is that if our audience is there in the room with us, we want the audience to root for this plan. We want them to get involved with this plan. We want them to feel the plan. We want them to be in the feet, put on the shoes for this individual here. And for lack of a better word, let's just call him a hero. So here's a hero. Now, who's the hero? Are you the hero? So you are the entrepreneur. You are the startup guy. Are you the hero? Think about this for a second. The mistake most entrepreneurs make is that they confuse the fact that they are the hero, that the story is about them, that the investor, that the customer, the person sitting on the other side actually cares about how they're going to go out and build. No. The story is not about them. The story is not about you. The story is not about me. The story is not about the startup or the artisan guy. The story is actually the hero in this specific question is actually the customer that we just spoke about. Right? And this Mr. X thing here is some pain that this customer is facing, that this customer is interested in resolving, in addressing, in removing, in fixing. And somewhere in the backdrop of the same story, there is this little element which is our product or our service. And what we really want to do when we tell the story is we want to first focus here, set the context for the conversation, and then very sneakily slip in, you understand the plan, you understand the pain, you understand who the hero is. Now let's see how we can help him get from point A, which is where he has a plan, to point B, where he has product X or item X or service X or concept X. Right? A good pitch starts off with the intro. The intro is your 90-second, 30-second thing. Who are you? What are you? What do you do? What do you want? And why do I care? Right? That's your intro. Then your main plot is what we've just covered. Your main plot is, here's the hero. The hero has this pain. There is somebody in this world who can fix this pain. That's the basic story. And we're all rooting for this hero to get rid of this pain. And you know what? Here's my product and my service who does that much better, much faster, leaner, meaner than anybody else in that space. Right? Okay. So now once you've done this piece, then you move on to, so once you've done this piece where you've got the backdrop, then you move on to the fact that so what part of the pitch have we covered so far? We've covered the intro, which is who you are. Then we've covered the story, which has hero and item X and a plan. And now we're talking about the conclusion of the story. And the conclusion of the story, to keep these guys engaged and involved, is to actually build, the right word is credibility. Right? The right word is credibility in the sense that this plan is dependent on your product, your service, and your product and service is dependent on your team, and your team is dependent on their experience and their ability to do this reasonably well, which is dependent on how many times have they done this in the past, as well as the resources that you have available, as well as the plan that you have built to make this happen. Right? So your credibility, the last piece of this conclusion piece, is to go out and build credibility for the story that you've just told which then basically means that you actually have to go out and say that, you know, this is the product and service that will allow the hero to be brought together to the item X that he or she wants. This product and service will be built by my team that has the past experience of doing this so many times and needs these resources which they already have or possibly would have, and are using this specific plan to make it all come together. So the last piece of building this pitch is this process, is the sequence of steps where you actually go out and make it real. You know, till now, till this piece, till step 2, this was just a movie. When you do step 3, it becomes bigger than a movie, and it gets to a point where you say that, you know, the person, the audience on the other side can say two things, needs to say two things. I can do this. Yes, I get it. I can see, if I had a chance, I can do this. Much more importantly, they need to say, the audience, the investor, the customers, the people that you're talking to, the one that you're pitching to, they can do this. That's what you want them to say. And then as soon as you've done with the conclusion, you do a close, and the close is in most cases an action item. This action item is the item where you go out and ask, give me. This is the give me. Give me money, give me the introduction, give me the customer, give me the order, give me the business. You have to ask. If you don't ask, then all of this hard work will simply go to waste. So let's review. A pitch is a transaction. The objective of this transaction is to get what you want. What you want could be dollars, could be intro, could be an order, could be time, could be help, could be any one or more of these things. So that's the objective of the pitch, is a transaction that gets you what you want from some mysterious Mr. X, right? So step 1 of this pitch is the intro, and the primary driver in the intro is respect, RESPECT, respect my intelligence. Part 2, and how do you respect the intelligence? By being to the point, by being brief, by being real. Second part of the pitch is the story, and the story is, I have a hero who is not Mr. X. This hero is Mr. Y, and this Mr. Y needs something called, let's call that Z. So it's not Mr. X, and he does not want the same thing that you want. He wants something else, and the story is basically introducing who he is, what he wants, and what's the trouble, what's the problem that's sort of standing between him and the item that he wants, right? Step number 3 is what we call the conclusion, and the objective of the conclusion is to present enough evidence to make what you are doing or thinking of doing, is to make that credible. And when I say make that credible, we want the person you're addressing, that you're talking, that you're interacting, that you're pitching to, we want that person to say, I can do this, so I can do this, they can do this, because it's credible. And this making it real, making credible piece is dependent on a number of different factors that we just covered earlier. And the final piece of the pitch is the ask. It's the give me. It's the close. Right? That's your story. Now, so what I want you to do now is that I think in about very short span of about half an hour or so, I've sort of laid out the battle plan for you. The first step that I want you to do now is you take all of the ideas that you've been working with for pitching and presenting over the next month or so. I want you to take all of those ideas and do what I've just done. I want you to build an intro. My name is Jawwad Farid. I sell risk systems to the banking industry. Do an intro. Tell me the story. Banking industry is in a lot of pain because of Basel II, because of control, because of compliance, because of the financial crisis, because of any X number of factors. And there are people who are suffering within the banking industry on account of this, because they don't understand this, or because they can't do this very well, or because it takes too long, or because it's too complicated, because it's too sophisticated. What do? I make it simple, right? So that's the story. Then make it credible. How do I know that I can do this? Remember, this is the audience, right? So the reason why I know that I can do this is because I have, well, in this case I is me, I have done it about 8 times in the past. I understand it, I teach it, I write about it, I am an expert, or a guru, or an SME, a subject matter expert in this specific field. So that's my conclusion, or my building credibility. And then there's the ask and the give me. And what's the ask and the give me? I think using your network, there is a lot of work that we can do together in this market. That's a give me, right? So let's figure out how to work together. That's the ask. Or for me to use or do what I've just done in one market, for me to replicate that in your market, I need X million US dollars. How many of these are you going to give me? Or to really make it worthwhile, there is this one missing component that you have, and I think if we combine our forces together, then the ultimate product that we would build would be so much more sophisticated, so much more applicable, so much more easily sellable, so much more exciting, that customers would just break down our door to get it from us. Okay, that's again an ask. So I've just done this for my business. What I want you to do in the next step is, over the next 5 to 7 days, I want you to script. I want you to script the intro, script the story, script the building credibility piece, and script the ask. Now, for the time being, I want you to ignore the audience. For the time being, let's just assume that the person that you're selling, pitching, presenting to is the customer. So we're not pitching, presenting to an investor. We're not selling, pitching, presenting to a judge. I just want you to sell it to a customer using the tool that we just outlined. And I think that's the very, very first step. Once we have this in front of us, then we can try and figure out how we can customize and refine individual pitches. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope this session has been interesting. I look forward to working with you in the future. This is Jawwad Farid signing off for financetrainingcourse.com. Thank you very much for your time.